This
Okay,
hangout is live.
there we go.
Perfect. Okay, so same thing as last time. Tell me a little about creating the image and what went into it, how happy you are with it, and then
Sorry.
we'll do some critique.
This was a senior session. For whatever reason, senior guys now are back into the cowboy thing. It's like urban cowboy comeback. I really like this image. I think in this series we're going to go through, I put my most current work, what I've shot in the past couple of months. I think it's some of the best work I've shot. I can attribute the Arcanum has really helped us up our game. Specifically so that I'm really paying a lot more attention to detail. I'm taking my time. I'm slowing down and really creating the shot that I want to get. I love the shot. I think it's a great shot of him. It shows him in his natural element. Super nice kid. I like the light in the background behind the hat. I just think it's framed well, and it shows good texture. What say you?
I'll agree with that. I do think that this is probably one of the strongest shots in your collection for level 9. I like the texture of the wood. I wish it wasn't quite so stark on the left-hand side. For me, where you see like the breakdown of the wood, like there's so much shadow behind it that the black cutting out, I think the shapes of the shadow behind the wood are a little bit distracting and pull me away from him just because they compete for almost a third of the space vertically.
So this is a little dark in here, you're saying?
Yeah, I just feel because it's a very cut out kind of feel to the edges as opposed to like behind him where we're seeing the texture and it's darker, but we're still getting some context.
Right.
This just essentially becomes negative space. And I think that it contrasts so much that it distracts from him a little bit.
Okay. I can figure out I can pull the shadows out of there pretty easily.
Yeah. I don't know that I necessarily think that they're necessary to have it in there for the visual element. Like, I actually think that it would be stronger if you just kept the frame of the door, the vertical board, personally, but that's for you. Same thing above. I love the like rustic old broken barn thing that we have going on, but then in the background the highlights coming out from behind his hat because we're just blowing them out with the light because of how much contrast there are. I just think those spots of light and shadow are a little bit distracting.
Okay.
But I love the texture of the boards behind him, and I love the one that he's leaning against. Those are really my only critique pitfalls that I see that would have room for improvement. And unfortunately, there really isn't much you can do about it because that's the trade-off of working with an old broken building that's half exposed.
Yeah.
But I definitely think the location works for the styling and what you have going. I like his expression. You did a good job of making him look grown up to suit his wants and still making him look childlike to support the parents, that's the juxtaposition with senior photos, is that the kids don't want to be considered kids anymore and the parents aren't quite ready for them to be adults. So I think you did a really good job marrying the two here.
The guys are always so serious.
Yeah, always. So this is one of my favorites from you. I think based on the work that I've seen from you so far, that this would warrant a 3. This would be exceptional. It would definitely make your portfolio for me.
Excellent. Shall we move on?
Yep.
All right, another senior session. Beautiful blonde. This is a location we shoot quite a bit. This time of year, it's wonderful because it's kind of ethereal. It's the light wispiness of the grass gone gold. I'd say the biggest drawback to the image that I don't love is the horizon head, when the horizon's coming through her head. I love the look on her face. I love the play with the hood. It's, like you said, kind of a grown-up look, yet childish, that it's playful. I like the little bit of distraction in the foreground with the grass. It shows that I'm down in there with her. And I like the connection with her eyes.
I agree with you about the horizon line. I think that's severing the photo. And I think that you could probably go in and select all of that and probably clone it out and add it into what's right below so that you just extend that upwards. And I think that'd be stronger. I would be inclined to do the same thing and pull the green out here because it's the only place that you're seeing it. And I feel like this patch in the bottom corner is weakening the color saturation across the entire thing. I'm not a huge fan of the pose. I gotta tell you. I think that it shrinks her. It makes her midsection really short. It's not flattering for her figure at all. And while I could get down with the idea of the hood play and her hands being up in it, I think that with the hood pulled to the side, the angle that you have, that you're making her look really wide because the eye is reading it from one edge of the hood to the other, which is making her neck the same size as her entire head. And it's making the shoulder and the arm really bulky as well because of the way that she's got it punched up. So I don't think it's really flattering as a pose. I'm not a huge fan of the color styling too. I'm not digging the denim underneath the sweater. I don't know if you give them any pointers before they come in on wardrobe, but you should be. The little smirk is cute. I like the expression, and I like that the colors in her hair are echoed in the grasses around her. I think that works really well. But this one was definitely not my favorite from you. I don't necessarily think that this one is anything that, the parents couldn't have gotten. So this one's going to be a 2 for me because I think it's adequate, but I think it's just adequate. I don't think this is some of your best work that we've seen. And personally, it wouldn't be one that I would be buying.
All right.
So next one.
Moving next. This is a wedding shoot. It was literally a last minute, hey, we need a photographer to come show up and shoot our wedding. Can you come Saturday? And we just happened to be free. And we're like, yeah, we'll come do it. The bride was super, super nervous. It was the first bride I've ever had puke at the altar. She ran out in ceremony, threw up, came back. So this is after the fact. And this is before the fact. We did the reveal and then the ceremony, and then she got sick. Anyway, Peter and his bride here, he was out in one room. He's coming in to see each other for the first time. They're holding hands. You can't tell in the picture. I don't know. I think it's nice of her, but more than anything, I love the look on Peter's face.
So can you do me a favor and just swipe your mouse away so that we can, okay, because it brings up the screen over half the picture for me.
Is there another way I can click so I can see you as well?
No, aside from going back and forth between the two, but really, it's on the images. It doesn't matter. It's just verbal.
Okay.
So I saw this one when you posted it, and I got to tell you, this one is my least favorite that you brought in. I don't think that it's very flattering for her. One of the biggest problems with weddings right now is that the biggest fashion trend is the strapless dresses, and because they're strapless, they have to be corseted and boned in order to keep everything in that should stay in. And the downside of that is that if you have any extra weight at all, that it tends to push up under the arms and you get the chicken cutlets to begin with. And even if you are a size 0 or 2, as soon as you sit her down or move her, it just presses up against the flesh and it's really unflattering. So you really have to know how to pose them to not get those fat rolls over the top edges of the dress that we're specifically seeing in the bottom with the shadow coming over. Shadows and lights are always the biggest indicators of everything.
Right here.
Protruding or, yeah. And it's so hard to retouch out too. I've dealt with that a lot when I was doing weddings.
She's a big girl.
Yeah, but I've dealt with it with girls that are size 2 and 4 too. It just, a lot of it does have to do with the boning and the structure of the gown. Like, it's just pressing against. Like, you can make anybody look fat if you put them in clothes that are 2 sizes too small for them. And essentially, that's what the corset does. It tightens way too tight to make sure she doesn't fall out of the dress. So it's a trade-off that everybody's constantly fighting with. I love the concept of the reveal and the moment before. I agree that he has great expression. Unfortunately, we're shooting at too shallow of an aperture to really appreciate it because he's all blurred out. So you lost the most powerful part of the photograph that way, which I'm guessing, the trade-off is that you get one of her and one of him. But I'm also a big fan of shooting at a wider aperture so that you have the sharpness and both of their faces. This is not your fault, but I hate the coloring behind him, that green. And then it looks like there's some kind of red light that's reflecting on the ceiling. I think this shot would probably be stronger in black and white than it is in color, because the colors are not flattering for the rest of the imagery. I'm guessing they're in a doorway. I don't know what your selection of lenses is, but shooting on a wide angle and actually being in the doorway so that it would have been, the doorway would have separated them and we would have seen the line and we would have seen both of them, probably would have been a stronger photograph than doing the accentuation on just one or the other. And in the future, if you have her actually bend at the waist and towards you and pull her shoulders back, you'll be able to accentuate all of the curves without adding any extras that you don't want. Are we working natural light? Do you have a window off to the side?
I think this is softbox.
Okay.
And it's a big sliding door, and we're in the off section of the church. As I do, is weddings are kind of do with what you've got, figured out on the fly. So I think I was shooting a 50 millimeter.
Okay.
And I was probably around a 2.8.
Yeah. I think, especially if you're shooting artificial light, you have a lot more control to be able to go up and down with your settings. Sometimes we get stuck on lower apertures when we're shooting nothing but available light and natural light. And of course, half the churches are dark wood and suck up what light there is anyway. So, you definitely do have to work with what you have. But you had a lot to work with that I don't think that you utilized necessarily in this one. I'm not fond of the lighting on her face. It's down a little bit too low. It needed to be a little bit higher on her, I think. So we're really accentuating extra weight that's in her face. And so we're getting that crease under the eye. And it's, part of it's the smile lines too, but it's being accentuated because that shadow is being really heavily accented right there. And then in contrast, because the light is so bright on the side of her face, we have no jawline on on her left, her right. Yeah. So we lose all of that jawline, and jawline, that's one of the first things, like, as soon as I start to see like double chin, that's like when I'm like, all right, I got to go to the gym.
I'll have to talk to my lighting tech.
Yeah, like chin and jawlines are really, really easy way to accentuate slenderness. And especially if you're working with someone that is a little bit heavier, having the light higher so that it puts the shadow underneath will help. But having her come forward and down towards the lens, especially if you had her leaning, would have pulled the shoulders back, which would have gotten rid of the shadow and the fat on the side that's being pulled in by the corset, and would have accentuated
forward like this from the waist.
Well, I can't see you because of your screen sharing, but yeah, you have her bend at the waist forward. Okay. So having her lean forward at the waist pulls the stomach back, and whatever's farthest from the lens is the smallest it recedes. That's why you always see girls taking selfies and they're holding the camera up here, because it makes their eyes and their boobs look big, and it makes their waist and their chins look small, because what recedes from the camera is smaller. So if you had her come forward and then even more with the head, you can see it just here. If I pull light aside, because this is essentially what you're working with, is side light right now. So you can see she has short hair too, so she doesn't have that to hide with. But the more that I come up and away, the less jawline I have. Whereas if I come down, now we're accentuating that line because we're getting the shadow here. And if I moved forward and away even more, then it starts to make it look slender, because you actually want to do the opposite. Everybody wants to like pull the shoulders back. And if you round out, when somebody's really thin, one of the most popular ways that people say that is, oh, she's all bone. She's all skin and bones. So if you have her hollow out to where you can see collarbones, and most people can do this because it's one of the areas that doesn't hold weight. So even if you're 50, 100 pounds overweight, you carry it in your arms and your legs and your stomach. You rarely carry it here.
Okay.
So it's a really good way to just show bone, which instantly translates as skinny.
Skinny.
So that's
cool.
probably
I never considered that. That's excellent advice.
Yeah. So so this one I got to tell you, this one's a fail for me. It's going to get a 1. I don't think that it's completely unredeeming, but it would not make your portfolio for me if I was trying to sell you as a wedding photographer.
Right. Okay.
Okay. Next one.
Oh, I've got to go back. We'll go this way. Okay. Not a senior. It's just she wanted some updated photos of her daughter. I did the traditional stuff with pretty candy colors and what I always do, and then I wanted to do some more artistic stuff. And so we went into the barn. The light was really muted. In edit, I've put a little gold tone to it. Just warmed it up a little bit because it was pretty cool. It was pretty blue. This is more the direction I kind of want to go with my portraiture. So you could call this an experiment. I would like to really do more artistic portrait photography and not just the glossy, magazine stuff. You know what I'm trying to say?
Mm-hmm.
So this is a play. I kind of like it. I'm pretty pleased with it. I think it's got a lot of interesting detail to look at. She is the center of attention. She's the center of focus. And I know I'm breaking all the rules by putting her in the middle, but there's so much to see. And typically, when you look at something with your eyes, that's how you look at it. You look at things centered. In the camera, as photographers, we try to make things more interesting by using the rule of thirds. I don't know. I like the juxtaposition when she's coming forward towards us. And for me, it works.
This one, I think, is definitely one of your stronger images that I've seen overall since you've been here. I like the matted look personally, so you gain extra bonus points with me. That will always win you favor, which is totally personal preference, but you should play to that all the time. There's just a little bit, because of the retouching that I'm seeing in the edge of the frame with the boards receding, where I'm seeing a little bit of the banding with the color.
Oh, yeah.
But it's minimal, and that's just one of the things that you have to kind of trade off on and
right
kind of shoot for it. Yeah. But it's
I'm just now seeing that, and I'm wondering, how when you edit in Lightroom and then you say upload to SmugMug or something, everything shows a little differently.
Yeah. So, and I'm viewing it as a screen share of the uploaded image to a social. So it's entirely possible that isn't in your original file, because it is.
Look at that. Yeah.
Weird.
I've noticed Lightroom shows stuff differently than when you go look at it on, say, especially Facebook. Facebook's horrible.
Yeah. My general rule is, as long as it doesn't show up in print, you're doing
right. Yeah.
One of the only things that bothers me, the point of having the rules is knowing not what they are, but knowing why they are. So
Right.
here, I think that it works because all of your lines lead into her. You have the boards coming forward and spreading out, coming from the back forward on the one side, and they lead you right to her. The other lines on the back you have like this horizon line with the stone and the wood, again, leads you right into her without cutting through her. So everything converges right where she is. So it works to break that rule and put her dead center right now, because of where she is in it and all the lines that lead in. The only thing that is not working for me is the window. And while I like the character of it, it's this big blotch of blown out light.
Really? That's what I liked about it. I accentuated it because I liked it bringing in light.
I like that it brings the light in and that it allows us to see the details of what's behind her. But because it is this big block of white or yellow, but a block of white comparatively in the image, and it is surrounded by darkness, your eyes want to jump from her over to the window. And as much as you like that window, it should not be competing with her to be the star of the image. And when you want to sit and look at it, you go back and forth from that to that. Your eyes are always attracted to the lightest part of the image, and that's lighter than her.
Yeah, so I'd agree with that.
I would go in, and even if you do like it, you can tone it down a little, but I would actually go in and just select it and just rough clone it out. Like, not for the final print, but just for you to see. Take it out and see how much more she pops in the image as a result of not having to compete with that. Because then the brightest part of it is her and the beam that she's leaning on.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Again, little things with the posing, especially with children, because children are the only people that are meaner than adults in school. You have to be careful about the way that you're posing with girls, especially because you can't accentuate the same way you can women's bodies, because you don't want to sexualize her, and people will sexualize anything. I have a picture of my daughter in her winter coat with like the first spring daffodils, and people were like, you really shouldn't position her like that. And I was like what? They're like sitting like that. She's sitting like Indian style, and somebody saw that as sexual. So you had to be like super, super careful of that. And you have to also take it with a grain of salt and realize some people are overactive or gross. But that being said, I'm seeing a little bit of a pouch with her stomach. We're accentuating her weight and making her look a little chubbier. And again, if you had her kick that back hip back and lean a little bit with the hip, it would have receded that. You just have to be careful about the way that you say it too, because you can't say things like suck in your stomach, because then they're self-conscious about it for the rest of the way. And I have a preteen, and like I don't want to say anything to her right now. I cry over everything. At the same time, she's actually in a semi-low cut shirt, so if you had her lean forward, you would be showing off more cleavage, and she looks about, say 13, 14?
I think she's 14 or 15.
Yeah, so it's like that really awful age. This is why I don't shoot girls this age, because it's in between, wanting them to be children and the fact that they're starting to get, grown women's figures.
Yeah.
You have to play really carefully with that, especially when they're wearing something that will help accentuate that. Because if you have her bent over, she's going to be all cleavage. Her mom is not going to want to buy it. At the same time, having her put a little bit of a bend in her waist would, pull back a little bit and minimize the stomach, which is good. You honestly, in this one though, you could go in digitally and just liquefy it a little bit.
Yeah.
And straighten it out for her, but give her a little bit more of a flatter tummy. The other thing to do, since she's got that sort of shy feel coming from her, and she has that little like young teen, awkward, not quite comfortable in my body.
She's a very awkward girl.
Yeah, you could have played with that a little bit more. And the other ways that you could have hid that was to simply slide part of her behind the beam, because then the beam creates a straight line down and would accentuate that, rather than allowing the lines of the body. I do that all the time when I'm in the studio, when I'm shooting girls that are extra curvy or have a couple extra pounds. You'll see me lounge them across different things that fake whatever the curve is. So, you know, putting them next to a vase that protrudes out makes it look like their lines of their body are concaving inward, which accents the line of the waist that every girl wants. So there's different ways that you sort of visually trick the eye without your mind even processing that it's being tricked.
Right.
But other than that, I really like it. I think you probably could have accomplished the same thing by having her just pull the other side of her sweater forward so that the line of her stomach wasn't cutting it. And again, it's probably honestly her jeans. You know, anytime you're wearing anything that has a tighter waistline, you're more inclined to fall over it, especially if you're kind of hunching and leaning. And because she's not quite comfortable in her body, she's more inclined to curl in around herself, you know, as like a layer of protection.
Right.
But they're very, very minimal, and that's me picking at it so that you're paying attention the next time. It's not killing the photograph for me. This one would be a 3 for me too, even with those little things, because I think this is one of the strongest images I've seen from you. So if this is an experiment in where you're looking to go, keep going in that direction.
Cool. Thank you. All right. I love this. This is a pinup shoot we did. I had been wanting to do one of these for so long. This is a hairstylist that works at a salon that we go to. And I saw her hair on Facebook, and I said, "You need to come to me. We need to do this." Because I love the red hair. So I told her, I said, "Grab a giant bag of outfits and get down here, and we're going to do this." And so we did. And this is probably my favorite of the shoot. There's a lot in the shoot that are pretty awesome, but this is the most playful, I think. I love the old truck. We use the old truck a lot. And I just like the contrast that's going on here with her hair and the truck and the white top. The lipstick just kills me. So
it is very, very traditional pinup in the styling with the hair and the makeup. I think you nailed it on that point. I love her expression. It's very cheeky Varga girl, which I think nails it. I love the idea of the old truck. I'm not a huge fan of the weeds in the background, but I like the one that's growing out of the bed of the truck. I think this is one where a more shallow aperture, I think, would have helped accentuate for you in this image and keep the focus where you want it to be. Again, you're kind of putting your dead center, and here I don't think that it works. So I think it'd be stronger if we probably you would be looking more at a square crop, but really cropping most of what's to the side. There's nothing over there that's really adding to the image that I feel like the image would suffer without. I'm a big believer that when you're shooting girls with tattoos, that you kind of have to either show them or cover them in their entirety. So I'm not a big fan of like the half bird coming out. I would have pulled that sleeve down more so that we could have seen the whole thing and accentuate it. The left hand is a little awkward. You want to keep all of the digits visible. So instead of having the hand flat and angled, like you did a good job with spreading the fingers, but these 3 are kind of sticking together. So spreading them out a little more would have been stronger. And then you want to either have the thumb in it or give the thumb something to do underneath, but get it in there. Otherwise it starts to look Paul-like.
maybe have her pulling her hair with a C
Yeah.
shape.
Especially with pinup, it's all about them doing something. Like if you look at the old Varga girl style pinup and traditional stuff, they're cooking, they're cleaning, they're ironing, you know, their slip of their dress or something. And so, yeah, if with her playing and giving you that thing, having her hands in her hair and playing and giving them something to do is always important. It lends to the story. Most women do not stand around with their hand on their collarbone shoulder and just
Right.
like, when's the last time you saw Susan do that? So if you have, even if you had her like just hook her fingers into like underneath and like just kind of pull it, then they're holding on to her shirt, whether they're holding it up or pulling it down or in her hair. Like, give them something to do that makes sense for her hands to be where they are. You did that with the other one. She's holding on to that. That I could totally see. That's believable. The other hand's a little awkward because you don't know why it's there, what its purpose is.
Right.
I'm not a big fan of the shirt at all. I like the white. I think the color is flattering and the little ruffles could be cute, but it is not flattering to her figure in the slightest. It's making the fabric, the way that it drapes down in the center in the shadow that you caught, is making her boobs look lopsided. We're not getting any curve with them, and it's kind of a billowed thing. And if you look, here's the really bad part. At the bottom edge of the shirt, because of the way that it curves under, I'm guessing there's like elastic there, that perfectly accentuates and mimics with the line of her flesh, with the stomach, which is making her look heavy, and then again down further with the shadow of the pants. So you have three very distinct rolls that all, and the fabric is mimicking fat.
I get it. Yep.
Bad. So
I didn't like the crop top on her. It didn't flatter her midsection.
Yeah, I would. She
It's
doesn't.
gorgeous
Honestly,
from the midsection up.
yeah, and you know what? Part of it is your job to figure out how to tactfully say that and go, I really don't think that's flattering. My go-to for this one would have been, you know what? I'm really not digging the wrinkles in the shirt. It looks a little unkept. We didn't get a chance to iron it. Let's change the top. You can find your way around it without going, this makes you look fat.
Right. Yeah.
That's a really good way to have an unhappy client, you know. But the bottom line is if they don't look good in it, you know, if they don't love the way they look, then they're not coming back to you, and you're losing money off of this. Like, this would not sell in my studio. My girls expect more than that. And the bottom line is as much as we want to say, you know, oh, big is beautiful and curves are great and yada, 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 like, we don't translate that outside of women. So when people are saying that, for the most part, and we're being really honest, for the most part, they're trying to be polite. It's not that they really find that really attractive. You know, most people will agree on there's reasons that they're considered the standards of beauty, and our job as photographers, especially with women, is to accentuate what all of their positive qualities are and minimize what they're not. So if you put her in tight jeans that are going to pull in to begin with, whether she's a size 2 or size 20, and then you put her in a midriff that's not accentuating any of the curves of her upper body, the only curves that we're showing off right now are the ones that shouldn't be there.
Right.
You know, so that's the downside and the negative of it. So, I mean, you could have gotten away a little bit with it. Part of what's happening too is that you can see from the crop that she's got her leg up on something. So it's her pose. Because she did that, anytime that you push in and bring up, think accordion. So the more that I bend to one side, and you'll feel it too, like just bend to one side, you can feel your flesh start to crease in at your midsection. And the more you bend over, the more those rolls you get.
Yeah. Because
you're accordioning everything in. Now, on the other side, when you're actually doing that, and everyone can feel it, like when you bend in, you feel like the rolls here, but you have this nice long line right here because you're extending this side of your body, you know? Right. But so it totally depends. So if you took a picture from this side, I would have 4 or 5 rolls of fat because of how far I'm bending in. But if you took a roll from this side, I have none. I'm so skinny. So it's just accentuating that. So part of the problem is that by her, well, I can't see it now because of the screen, but
I could have corrected it basically by just changing my angle.
Well, not just your angle, by just having her put that foot down.
Yeah.
You know, because that would have right now, because it's squishing up, it's pushing and condensing, compacting all over her midsection because that thigh's up. So, and because of that, it's accentuating too, because it's pushing the fabric up. It's also causing the fabric to cut in under her stomach. So if you had that extend out, because you don't have that on the other side of her.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I mean, you're getting a roll here, you're getting the actual roll, and then you're getting this tucking And there's
Yeah,
even
which is accentuating and making it look like a bigger roll than it is. Whereas on the other side of your body, if you hold your hand up over that and just look at the other side of her body, she's got great curves and lines.
Yeah.
So if you had brought that leg down and crossed the ankle in front of the other one, you would have accentuated both lines because you would have pulled her body, her lower body, as far away from her upper body as you could, which would have allowed for the most of it. So it's little bits and tweaks that you got to kind of catch in camera and go, okay, this isn't working, especially if you're working with what you got. So if she showed up in that and didn't have any other costume options and you're like, I got to work with this, then you got to work with it. You know, if I was working with that, changing the pose would be one thing. That crop top, if you have to work with it, if girls have any extra weight, especially once they hit their 30s, they tend to get pear-shaped. They tend to carry it on like their love handles and down into their pelvic and their hips and their thighs more. So another way to accentuate that, I would have totally took that shirt and curled it up and under the bra and given her more flesh, because we would have seen lines at the waist.
Blouse the whole area and get rid of that tucking.
Yeah, because if you had done that and curved it under, then we would have had the curve of the breast, and then we'd have seen skin. And so that flesh would have gone out instead of having that pouch of fabric that's adding to the fat.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay. So this one, it passes for me. But I still think I'm going to give it a 1 because this would never make my portfolio just for the posing. And make sure you're reminding them to iron their clothes because the wrinkles is another no-go for me.
Yeah.
I love the potential for this one. I think you could take her out. She's a gorgeous, gorgeous face, and she's got that red hair, and she has that pinup look. I think that you could do a lot with her, but I would consider this a practice run, and I would reshoot it.
Yeah. Do you want to see a couple more from the session?
Nope. You're only allowed to bring the ones that you decide to bring.
I know, but not for critique, just to look at it.
Nope. Nope. But you can stop screen sharing.
Okay. I can figure out how to do that now. Get back to you. There we go. Is that it? Did I do it?
No, I'm still seeing me. So if you just go up and hit the green again on the thing, there we go.
Okay.
There. Okay.
Oh,
so
yeah.
that was a tough critique.
Yeah, you beat me up. But you know, it's little stuff you're hitting me on, and it's stuff you have to really stop and look at. I mean, it tells me that I'm doing a lot of things right, and I need to look at the smaller stuff. And I'm starting. I mean, I've told Susan when we go out and shoot, so we really need to slow down. We need to really take our time. And a lot of times we're just banging through a shoot, and what we're generating in 30 or 40 minutes should be taking us an hour and a half.
Mm. So, this advice will also serve you very well in JLark. I'm sensing a kindred spirit from you guys in the sense that patience is not a virtue you naturally possess, and I love it because people like you go very far very quickly, which is good.
Yeah, just in the past, I say just through steps 0 through 5 or 6, I've had friends that follow us and watch our work and see us progress, and they're like, man, you guys have upped your game. Stuff has really changed.
And you are. I can see it from what you brought in and put in the beginning when you were introducing yourselves to where you are now, finishing your first sphere and going into sphere 1. But it's really, really important. The best advice that I have for you is be growth oriented and not goal oriented, which means don't be in such a hurry to go, I'm at level 9, I'm at level 10, I've completed the challenge, I'm ready to go. Right. Look for where the lessons are in it and get everything that you can out of it when you're looking and what's beyond the lesson. Because part of the reason that I slow roll with you is because you have the same thing I do. And I recognize it in you because I struggle with it all the time. I really, really do. On one hand, it's going to be your strongest asset because you're going to push to move forward and you're going to grow a lot faster than other people because you're willing to put the work in and you have the energy to push forward when other people start to get burned out. Right. On the other hand, when you're going that fast, you miss a lot of things that if you slowed down, you would catch. So I think especially because you and Susan are both in and you're working as a team, I would be taking more of a team mentality with the two of you and making sure that when you're submitting, that you're submitting together and looking for how your work is accentuating and playing off of each other because you guys shoot as a team. So there's a lot of value in having the different perspectives that you have in the way that you shoot and having that diversity. I think that's really strong. But I would also be asking, how do they accentuate each other? Because like you can have cheesecake with raspberry sauce and it's to die for, but you can also have a really good vinegar. You don't necessarily want to pour it over your cheesecake. They're both amazing on their own, but you want to make sure that what you guys are doing is accentuating each other from a place of service and the experience they're getting, but also that they look like they should be in the same albums and collections when you're ordering pictures, right. You know, and that's something that I think we're going to start seeing in Sphere 1 with you guys is starting to understand, because you're a little overconfident, if we're being really honest, like you, which I like because I can beat on you without you being like, she doesn't like me. And there are certain apprentices I've had that I've had to be a little gentle, and honestly, I'm really not the master for them, because you have to understand that tough love is still love. So I beat on you guys. Yeah. And you take it really well. But it's good for you to see growth and see potential and go, yeah, I'm doing good, but you're a little overconfident in where you're at right now. That I think that it comes off as a little bit unwarranted and egotistical. I would like to see stronger work from you personally. I would like to see it because I know you're capable of it, because you put up an image every now and then that I'm like, holy hell, there it is. And I'm like, yep, he's one of mine. And I'm like, you know, popping collars with the other masters. I'm like, that one came from my cohort, you know, but I'm not seeing it consistently. And I'm seeing things that are really good, but that aren't consistent in the style. So you're one that, if you look over just the 5 images that you brought, if I never saw your work and put them in a set of 20 images, I would not pick all 5 of those out as from the same artist.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I think moving forward now, as we're going forward and we're moving towards level 14 and 19 critiques, one of the things that I'm really going to be pushing you on and that I'm going to be looking for is not only that the work is really good, but that the collection of work as a whole works well, that I'm seeing style and I'm seeing voice and I'm seeing consistency in lighting and posing and retouching and what you're doing and putting it together. Because what I want to be able to do is pick out your image without your watermark on it. Yeah. I want to know that that is your image. And I would actually sacrifice an excellent image out of the collection of 5 if one was less impressive but followed that suit. So if you're seeing people and you're getting that positive reinforcement where they're saying you're upping your game, that's good, because it means you're learning and you're growing. Now you really have to start deciding, what is my style? Like, I love the image of the girl in the barn, but she stands out like a sore thumb in the other images. I think that's one of your strongest images. So
I would agree with that. I feel like I found a place where I need to find my identity. And I'm struggling with that. You know, a lot of it, because we shoot outdoors and it's seasonal, it's hard to maintain the style because it changes throughout the year. So I would totally agree with that I need my identity. And I want it to be separate from Susan. Susan's totally different shooter. So yeah, I would say that's probably a huge growing pain for me.
Yeah. And I think you're in a really unique position where it's going to be twice as hard for you because you and Susan shoot as a team. So whenever someone hires you guys, they get both of you, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's different because you want to have like your style and you want to have Susan's style, but then you want to have like Pitt photography style as well. And that should be like, you can't have like your style and my style and this wall between. It has to be like ocean and beach. Like there has to be, where Pitt photography is the melding point where it overlaps each other. So there has to be some similarities. So you guys sitting down and really, honestly, what I would do is I would sit down you and I would sit down her separate, go in separate rooms and just put down on a list of paper or go through your images and pick your top 3. You know, this is my style. And looking at them, go, what are the similarities? Well, I'm matting my photos a lot and there's no true blacks. I really like this. I tend to break the rule of thirds and I tend to put people right in the center. That, you know, once is a mistake, 5 times is an experiment. You do it 100 times, it's a style. You'll be that photographer and it'll work and people will like it and go, I like that he does that, and hire you for that. Right. You know? So sitting and really looking at some of your best images that you do feel are starting to show your style and sort of dissecting them for what the commonalities are in them will start telling you what your style is. And then you'll be working with those words in your head as you're taking other pictures for consistency. I would have Susan do the same thing. And then after both of you do it, I would have you sit down and see where those words are overlapping on each of your lists, because there's Pitt style.
Yeah.
Okay. How are you feeling? Because that was rough. You took it like a champ, though. I'm very proud of you.
You know, I love what I'm doing, and I can't imagine, you know, 4 or 5 years ago where I am now. And we've progressed quickly, and I just, you know, I want to learn, so I'm listening, you know, and I don't take it personally. You know, it's art, it's subjective, but I want to learn. I want to be better, and I've seen myself go from one place to a next by paying attention and by learning and by experimenting. And so why wouldn't I? You know, why would I get mad at Jess?
Well, and that's a really healthy attitude to have too, because you're gonna get it. And the more people are paying attention, the more critique and the more useless criticism you get that isn't critique as well. Like people, you know, the more accomplished, the better your work, the more other people will pull down because it's easier than them trying to climb up themselves.
Right.
So having a thick skin is a great thing to have, especially as an artist, because we put so much of ourselves into our work, so much. And so it's really, really hard to not take it personally when you're like, this is my heart and soul and I put everything into it. Yay. Right. Somebody else is like, that sucks. You know, and you're like, and it's funny, I was just having this conversation. I don't know if you follow me on Facebook too, but I put up a bunch of family portraits that Lindsay Adler took, who is one of my favorite fashion photographers. And between her post and my post, there's got to be easily 600 likes and you know, hundreds of comments and, oh my God, that's great, that's amazing, love the style, love the dress, you guys are so fun, incredible portraits. One person comments underneath and says something negative, and she messages me like that and like, did you see that guy that said that he didn't get the picture? Stupid. And you know, and she knows and she deals with it and she lets it roll off too. But it's that one voice. 600 people liked it. And that one person that was like, this isn't good. Yeah. And both of us were like, who the fuck they think they are? Sort of fresh and fresh. They don't know anything. They wouldn't know style or fashion if it bit them. You know, right. Like, so we're always inclined to like focus all of our energy on that negative. So the fact that you can take a tough critique is good, because then when somebody has nothing of value to offer, which is the difference between critique and criticism, you'll just let it go, which is the best thing that you can do.
Yeah. So. I mean, you can't take it personal. I mean, I've always been a creative. You know, I was a chef before I was a photographer for 2 decades. And you get used to hearing, oh, it's so good. Oh, I want to hear what's not quite good or what's not right or what could be better, because I'm never going to get better if I don't hear the negative. Mm-hmm. So yeah, you can fluff my ego all you want, it's not going to improve me.
Yeah, and you know, it's good too, because I was picking on really small things. Mm-hmm. When you're good, You're
I
on.
got that, and I appreciate it because that's what I want to work on. Is I finally know I've reached the point where I look through the viewfinder and I make the shot, and I'm looking at everything. I'm looking at background. I'm looking at foreground. I'm looking at light. I'm looking at shadow. And so, yeah, the things I'm missing that you're pointing out, that's what I want to see. And I see a lot of photographers that just bam, 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 and you can't shoot that way, and be successful anyway.
Yeah.
We shoot a lot of weddings, and you have to shoot that way, but there's still things you can do to correct and make better. So, yeah, I get it.
Good.
Learning.
How are you feeling coming into the end of the foundation levels? Because now the real work begins.
I think I'm pretty cool. I was a little overwhelmed through late summer, early fall. We got super busy. We were shooting, we shoot mostly weekends because Susan works full time. And we were doing 3, 4, 5 a week. And then during the week, I also go shoot real estate and other crap, whatever I can find. I'm shooting this today. You know what that is? That is a cup holder for a Harley Davidson.
Nice.
So I'm shooting a product shoot today. And then tonight we have a meeting with a guy at a restaurant, and he wants to put this mural size on his wall.
That's awesome.
One of our shots, which, yeah, I'm pretty excited about it. So, yeah, I mean, we got insane busy through the fall. And I told Susan, I was like, it's a little scary. We're making more money than we've ever made.
Good.
And to keep up the level that we want to be at and to continue to grow, because it's easy to just cruise along at one level. I want to keep notching it up. And to keep that amount of business and keep notching it up, I found it a little difficult. And then trying to find time to come here and do the Arcanum stuff was like, man, I have to put it off. And so, yeah, we took about a 2-month break.
Yeah.
Now we're going into winter. We have time. Susan's still back at step 5. She wants to work all the way up and do everything.
Okay. Well, that's the beauty is that the Arcanum's here when you come. Like, really, sure. if you move up 5 levels, or if I don't hear from you for a month, you're paying me anyway. So I'm here when you're here.
The 5th level lesson is the hardest.
Yeah. It definitely is, but when it's hard, that's where all the growth is. So I'm totally okay with you guys taking your time, and really, you guys are coming to get better as artists so that you can get better at your business, so that you can move forward. So if you're going to have an excuse for not being around, I'm too busy getting paid to do this is a great excuse. I love that one. Yeah. I'm like, go forth, come back when you have off time.
Yeah. Last time we talked, you're like, you're not charging enough. You're stupid. And so we doubled our rate, and we're busier than ever.
Good. Guess what that means? Time to consider raising your rates again. You're coming in, and now is a great time because you're coming into the end of the year too. So that's something that I would really be looking at. Like, instead of worrying about rushing ahead for Sphere 1, I'm a big believer that you go fast alone and you go far together. You and Susan are a team, so I would sit down and spend some time with her and let her catch up and see what you can do to take other things off her plate outside the Arcanum so that she can put some time here. Yeah. If she's working full time too, because that's tough. But I would really, really be sitting down, the two of you, for the next month and figuring out new pricing, new packaging. Because if we can get you to double your rates again, you can do half the amount of work and make the same money that you're making right now.
Yeah.
Which frees up a lot of time for family and life and work and other things you want to pursue. And the bottom line is that when you start looking around and getting frazzled because you're too busy and you have too many clients, that's a sign that what they are getting out of it is disproportionate to what they are investing. You walked into a car dealership, even a used car dealership, and they were giving away all of the cars on the lot for $100. There would be no cars within an hour because it's disproportionate. Even if you don't need a car, yes, I will. I'll take 5. Why not? Because it's a disproportionate rate. Now that's a really drastic thing, but that's what people do. That's why Black Friday is so freaking nuts across the entire country, because everybody lowers everything and you're like, oh, I'm getting this $300 thing for $100 things. The value to price is disproportionate. So if you're finding yourself very busy, my general rule is if you're booking more than 7 times, 7 clients out of 10 are saying yes to you in a row, your prices are too low and your quality's too high and it's time to raise. So it's one of those things. You're like me, so I don't think that you'll have a problem going, yeah, okay, I was charging 500, now I'm charging 1,000. That's what I do. I'm like, I just put it out and go up. If it bothers you or Susan and you're like, we can't do that, no, raise it in increments. Every 5 people that book have validated your price, raise it up another $100 or $200 and change your price. It's not like
you say I'm the overconfident, which is totally true. And she's the underconfident. I keep telling her,
that would be part of the balance, though.
Your shit's really good. So yeah, we're totally this way.
That's good though, because she'll help keep you in a place where what you're exhibiting is confidence and not arrogance or ego. And in contrast, you'll be pulling her along and making sure she's not undervaluing herself and you by extension as the collective, and giving it away for free when the work has value, because that's in my mind just as, if not more, detrimental to have false modesty or insecurity and be like, well, I'm not worth those rates, because no one will pay you more than you ask for. I have no problem I've gone
to shoots thinking that I've done work and been like, man, we should so be getting more. We did more than what we got paid, and I don't want to feel that way. And I also don't want to feel, man, we made a shitload of money and we didn't do anything. You know what I mean? I want to give what I get.
Well, it's both, like you can be really happy for, like, I'm really happy. Like I get paid and I joke about it because it is amusing to think of in that way. Like nobody comes into my studio and spends less than $2,500 on a session in the last 2 years. Every time I pick up my camera, I'm making at least that much money. But I tease about it when I'm talking to people, because people are like, oh, we have to be high end and people have to value us. And I'm like, you need to really check your ego a little bit. You're taking pictures of people in their underwear. That is so the epitome of first world luxury crap that somebody does not need. When the grid collapses, you're the first to go. And you're the one that they feed to the zombies because you have no translatable values. Like, that's not your food. That's not your shelter. It's not providing for your family or anything. But it's very emotionally enthralling and can be incredibly confidence building. And so there's a lot of untangible things that come into play when we're doing those things. But still, when you think about it, $2,500 is more than my mortgage payment.
Yeah.
That's more than some people's mortgage payment and their car payment and their utilities. Some people don't make that in a month. And you're asking them for a mortgage payment to take their picture when everybody in the world has a camera on their cell phone.
Yeah. I don't feel bad about it now at weddings. For a while we didn't feel confident. And now we're confident enough. And I tell people, I said, you're going to pay us $3,000 because I'm creating lineage for you. When your house burns down, you're going to grab your kids, your pets, and your photo album, because you're going to look back, your distant relatives, way in the future. That's how they're going to see you on your wedding day. And
a lot of it's translatable too. So and this is something I had to learn as well. You and I are very much alike, which is why I pick on you, because all the things I don't like about you are all my worst qualities, reflected back. But they'll also be strengths once you learn to play to them, which I think is really important. And a lot of it's just about letting them come to those conclusions themselves. So, when you talk about it and they're like, that's not really in my budget, that might be a little too expensive. We don't want to spend this. It's very easy for me to pick it up and go, this is your first family heirloom.
Yeah.
that you guys are ever going to have. This is the first one. You guys are creating this new family, and this is the first thing that we create that becomes part of that.
Yeah.
What is that worth to you?
And then they go, oh, you're right.
Yeah. And then you go, okay, and it's great. And I can't wait for you to come in for your champagne reception and see all these pictures. But how are you going to feel when you guys have your 50-year anniversary and your granddaughter's paging through this?
Yeah.
You know, what's it going to be like to call me and have me shoot your daughter's wedding in another 20 years and have the picture of her and her daddy at the end of the aisle that we shot with him in his uniform and her wearing his Marine hat?
Yeah.
What's the value of that?
Mm-hmm.
And then you break it down and you're like, and really, when you think about it, 50 years, 52 weeks a year, $3,000, would that come out to half a penny a day over the course of your life to have a priceless family heirloom? But if you don't want it.
Yeah. And that's how I justify it to them. I'm like, you're paying, in the grand scheme of things, you're paying a couple of bucks a picture. And that's
Yeah.
it.
And I say that too. Like, I joke about it with other photographers because I think it's important for photographers to keep in perspective. Like, they're like, oh, we're so misvalued. And it's bullshit. Like, it is. Like, you don't have to train your clients to understand your value. You have to show them the value. And your artistry makes the argument for you all the time. I don't have to sell anyone. When people come and they like my work, it's because they love the work. Oh
Yeah.
my God, I love what you do. I've had people, a friend of mine who is a very accomplished photographer, messaged me because her mom wanted one of my iPhone photos as a print. And I was like, I mean, I'll send you the file, but I don't know how big you can print it. It's an iPhone photo,
I've noticed that too. I've taken a couple phone pics. I'm like, that's pretty damn good.
Yeah, it's pretty good. What am I lugging this big camera around for? But that's the way that we're headed. And as technology continues to progress, it's going to be very easy for everyone to have a very good camera. So that's where the argument's going to come in, and we go, oh, size doesn't matter. It's how you use it, kind of thing. And with photography, we're like, oh, it's not the equipment, it's the photographer. Well, the equipment improving has vastly closed down the distance between
Everybody with a DSLR is a professional photographer now.
Well, and not even that, but just the image quality, because the camera does so much of the thinking for you. But the difference is that the camera can only think the way it was programmed to think. So the camera will always take a perfectly exposed photo of the entire thing. So if I want that silhouette shot where all you're seeing are all those sexy lines of her and that line away cutting through the shadow, your camera is not going to do that ever, because that's not the way it learns to read. It wants to expose so that you can see your face. It won't do the silhouette. It won't see those colors. It won't see the shot. It won't ever look and go, hey, maybe you shouldn't have that blue horizon line going through the middle of her head. Maybe you should have her drop that leg. Maybe it will get to that point, but I think we still have another decade or two. So you really have to play on the thing that you can play on. And the interesting thing is that not only does that separate you as a professional from all the amateurs and the non-essential photographers and people that have no interest or that are just playing at it, but it also separates you from all the other pros. Because what they're looking for, if they fall in love with your image, even though we can say, and I can't say it without sounding egotistical, but even though we can say, you're the apprentice, I'm the master, I have more experience, I get paid 10 times what you get paid. If somebody falls in love with your photo, I could go and argue all day long. I have better equipment, I have more experience, I'm a better photographer, whatever. But they're going to look at my work and they're going to look at your work and they're going to go, well, no, because we really want him. We want this. We want this thing, and you don't do this thing, you do that thing. And that thing's cool, but we want this thing. And it's essentially somebody walking in and, going back to what we're looking at. I have the finest distilled vinegar ever created in the history of the world, and it's aged and goes through this whole process. And you're like, yeah, but I got cheesecake and I don't think that's going to pair well. So thanks, but that's not helpful. I have the sharpest, most beautiful knife in the world. That's amazing. I'm eating soup. That's not going to help me. I need a spoon. So it's that on a style level where people are looking, and, you're going to look at other people and start to see people that you admire and that you go, someday we'll be like that, you know? And those people are always moving up. Like you get to a certain level and then you meet all these new people and you're like, okay, now someday I want to be like them. And then you get to that level and you're like, great, now I've gotten to them. Now I want to be like them. But the thing is that even as you start to get to those people, you'll have the people that are like, yeah, we considered them, but then we decided to go with you. And then you'll go, oh, you know, and that'll be one of those days that Susan has to pet you and go, okay, calm down, Tanta.
Yeah.
You're good.
We've seen the bargain basement shoppers kind of drop off because we're not going to do it for free. I will give stuff away. I will be generous. I will cut breaks or deals when I think you need it or whatever, or if I just want to do it. But the Facebook shopper, ISO cheap photographer, I almost don't even want to respond to those anymore. You know, I'm like, no.
You know what? The best thing to do is to keep in mind that that's not them not valuing you. Because there's different people that have different priorities. So it's like going to McDonald's or going to Moritomo's. Like, you know, you can go spend $300 on a plate of food or $3 and have dinner either way. And the bottom line is that the people that go for the $300 experience, it's not about the money. They're going for the experience. They're going for the food. They're going to feed someone they love to celebrate a special occasion. And you're a chef, so you totally get that.
Yeah.
You know? And as a chef who has worked in the industry, who understands the value of good food and, you know, the importance of the ingredients that you're using and how fresh they are and what can go into creating a good meal, you can still appreciate that sometimes you just want a cheeseburger.
Oh, yeah.
You know, like, and so it's about value for them. So while this is why a lot of people gravitate towards wedding photography, because that's one of the times that everybody's like, I'm probably willing to invest a little more because this is my first family heirloom. This is a once in a lifetime thing. Family portraits, maybe I'll skimp on that because I'm going to get them done again next year, you know, or I don't care as much. School portraits, you know, I'm that way. Nobody understands the value of photography more than me, but I don't buy the kids' school portraits. I think they're outrageous for the prices they sell them at.
Oh, yeah. I never buy that crap.
Yeah. You know, but at the same time, one of my best friends in the industry does very high volume like that and cranks them out. And he makes 4 times the annual income than I do as a high-end photographer because of the way he runs his business. So anytime somebody comes and says, I'm looking for this, I recommend them to him because what you're looking for and the value you have on it will benefit them, and they will shoot you and they will be happy about it because of how their business model is set up. And I know that my relationship and my reputation stays intact because I'm recommending you to someone quality. So, you know, I would make friends with a couple of people that are on the low end that are turning out good work for the quality and the value that's being invested. And I would have a list of people and go, you know, we're not at those rates. You would be looking to spend significantly more with us. However, you know, I can recommend you to this person, and this person. So I have people that are at $100 and $500 and $1,000 and $2,000 and, you know, stuff like that, especially now that I don't do weddings anymore. And it's great for relationships. It's great for me to be able to throw money at them and help them in their business. And that always comes back. And at the same time, I've had people that have been like, I can't afford that and I'm really looking to spend this, and I've recommended them to someone good. And then one of their friends is like, I really want to get incredible sexy portraits done for Christmas for so-and-so. And they're like, you need to go back to her. She'll take care of you, because they know it's not just about the money.
Right.
You know? So you'll actually solidify in their minds when you're recommending people away. Because essentially what you're saying is, I would rather recommend you to someone else than take your money as a business. That translates to them understanding that you're doing really well financially right now to be able to turn away paid work while other starving artists are begging for scraps.
Right.
So, you know, it's all about how you present it, and it really does benefit you in the long run, and it helps raise everybody else up that's below you, which I think is really important, to pay forward and look back. So
yeah, makes sense.
So now going into sphere 1, what would you like to see? What would you like the focus to be? What do you feel like you need to to see out of the Arcanum for it to continue being worth the time investment, the loan money?
I think that's totally that question. Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Yeah.
I mean, it's doing its thing. It's doing what it's designed to do.
Okay. Good.
So I can't really say this is what I want. And this, I don't think that far ahead. I literally live in this block of time. I used to be one of those people, you know. And it's just so much easier to not even think about tomorrow if I don't have to.
Right. Okay. Well, as long as you're feeling like it's good, then we're good.
Yeah, no, I think we're moving forward. I'm making progress. We discussed that, you know, we've upped our game. Things are better. We're busier than ever. So, I mean, it's working. It's doing what it's supposed to do. I think it's a good relationship. There's been some frustrations along the way. It's mostly with Google.
Yeah. That's everyone. Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna stop recording, and I want you to hang out for just a minute because I do want to talk to you about something, but I don't think I'm allowed to say it on the air without getting fired.